Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Shintaro Higashi Show with Peter Yu. Thank you so much, Levon and Jason, as always, our two biggest sponsors. Thank you very much, guys. Appreciate you
Yeah,
guys.
thank you guys so much for every month. Great support. This is why we can do this.
Yep.
So what are we going to talk about today?
BJJ for intermediate judokas. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
And vice
so
versa? Is that what we're doing?
Yeah,
Both sides?
So we're gonna focus on BJJ for intermediate judokas on this episode, and then we're gonna follow it up with judo for intermediate BJJers. So
yes, very good,
kind
very
of a
different from the white belt coming in and like, hey, I want to learn
Yeah.
judo or BJJ, either or. They have zero experience. It's very
Yeah.
different because then they don't have a full understanding of the sport that they're already coming from. So they can't really make use of the new information. White
Right.
belt comes in to judo, and then they start learning turn throws, and they quickly realize that people are standing up for 10 seconds at a time, and when they pull guard or they go for one turn throw and they're not good at it, and then they get their back taken, their immediate go-to feeling is this thing doesn't work.
Yeah.
So
this this was a suggestion from Emin, from one of our Patreons, and then he basically said the same thing. Like he's so he right now he's I think he's learned some judo, and then he's dabbling at BJJ.
Yeah.
And he said he finds some balance and body mechanics very useful from judo, but also he's trying not to fall back too much on the judo instinct. So he basically wants to really, approach BJJ as just for the sake of BJJ instead of like trying to smash people with judo throws or anything. So how do we? What are your thoughts? Because you've done both.
wait, remind me again. Which episode is this? Judo for
This is BJJ. This is BJJ for judo, intermediate judokas.
Oh, so you are, let's just say, a green or a brown belt in judo.
Sure, yeah, something like
and
that.
You go
and then
into a jiu-jitsu class, and you're like, all right, let's see what I can learn here, right?
yeah, exactly.
Very nice. All right, so first and foremost, as always, you have to know yourself, your style, where your gaps in your game are. With all that being said, the goal is to learn BJJ for itself, or to use it to improve your judo skills and win matches using BJJ and judo, right? So like you have to see like, all right, do I want to go the IBJJF circuit or the judo circuit, national, local, regional, international? So you kind of have to have a decision. You know what I mean?
Right.
First, right?
So what's your goal here? Like if that's your goal, why are you learning BJJ after learning judo, right?
Yeah, that's really important. And then now all of a sudden you're spending the time going to actual classes and taking classes, and they're showing spider guard or lasso, whatever it is, or even like inverted guard, or some of these things that may not present itself in judo because you don't have enough time or you're just never in that position enough. That's gonna not really give you the best sort of bang for your buck if you're trying to use jiu-jitsu to compete in judo. But there's certain passing types that are very, very useful for judo, and there's certain positions that you see in judo all the time, right? So if you can sort of guide your practice in that setting, maybe you're not just taking regular class and like, oh, today we're going to do butterfly sweeps. It might not be useful for you. But if you kind of like take a little bit of time before class or do privates even. Private lessons is always a good way to kind of like customize your training, you know? Because the guy gonna be like, oh, let me show you, reverse De La Hiva to kiss the dragon. It's like that's not what I want to learn today, So
is that a real move?
That's a real thing, yeah.
Oh, really? That's amazing.
But if you could say like, hey man, I'm trying to win a judo match, and then these are the positions. Like over under pass is probably one of the best ones because the rules for judo rule says like when you're passing, they could belly down and then not give up their back, no problem. It's kind of like ADCC rules too. If you pass and you accept the pass, you get points taken. The other person scores. But if they're passing, you give up your back, and then you can kind of get back up to your feet. You're good. So you expose your back, but you don't give up any points. Similarly with judo, you could give up your back, no problem, and then a couple seconds of stalemate, people will stand you up. So over under pass is a very good one. And then being very, very good finishing mechanics with finishing from the back. That's another really good one. Those two are probably like the best bang for your buck, in terms of spending your time.
Using BJJ if you want to use BJJ, some of the things from BJJ for your judo, right?
Yes. And then, go ahead.
So I just wanted to like divide this episode into two parts, I guess. So let's keep going with, if you want to just take some elements from BJJ to improve your judo game.
Yes.
And then we'll touch on the other way, like you want to just learn BJJ. And then maybe touch on how your experience has been and I can kind of jump in there and there too. So, yeah, let's keep going with taking elements. So from BJJ, so you said over under pass.
Yeah.
Because you can prevent people from bellying down.
In judo, yes, when you're passing, right? And then you're there all the time. People go sumi, tomonage, any sort of sacrifice though. If they go to their back, it always presents itself.
Because the one leg is up. Yeah.
One leg is up. They're on their back. Their legs are right there. You go over under pass. You prevent the turnout. You know how to finish it properly, pass and pin. Because you get points for that in judo. Yeah. Right? So that's number one.
Yeah. So what are some other things?
So attacking the back is very good. Finishing mechanics for any chokes.
Right.
Finishing. Haraka
all the nitty-gritty details, like BJJ really goes through that well.
Yes, but then you have to be able to alternate and rotate through them quickly while creating movements. You have to make it judo relevant. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Attacking the neck, going for juji. When you get to juji, right? If you can't unlink the hands, in judo, after a certain amount of time, they're just going to send you back up.
Down. Yeah.
So getting really good in that position, being able to go for it really quickly, because jiu-jitsu is unlimited time, But because you're spending a lot more time in that position of trying to unlink the hands and trying to finish the juji, and you're learning finishing mechanics, that's very useful for you,
Right, right.
And then also, obviously, some of the open guard stuff that relates from you doing sumigaeshi, tomonage, and transitioning from standing to ground, and then going for flash arm bars and such from bottom. That's always really helpful. You know what I mean?
So when you show up to a BJJ school with this mindset, and then you know what to work on, like those three things you just mentioned.
Yeah.
How can you really structure your practice around it? Because a typical BJJ school is not necessarily going to tailor everything to your needs.
No.
You mentioned privates, but some for some privates may not be possible.
That's very true. I'll tell you this, man. Yeah. When you're going to a judo school, right? How many randori can happen at once on the feet? Not that many, because space is always a concern, right?
Yeah.
You can't have 100 guys on the mat doing stand-up randori together unless you're in Japan in a massive space, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So you get less randori rounds, 100% in judo. But I'll give you an example. My dojo, which has a little bit more than 1,000 square feet of mat space, we're in Manhattan, okay? I know someone's like, oh, that's a small dojo. It's like, yes, we're in Manhattan. It costs an arm and a leg. It's a fortune.
Yeah.
You have 1,000 square feet. Okay, we get maybe 8 guys doing tachiwaza randori.
Yeah.
So we do short 2 to 3 minute rounds, right? And then we just keep going, and then we filter them out. Don't double up until later. People get tired. They fall off. But we could have 25, 30 guys working out at the same time in newaza.
Right.
See what I mean? So you could do more rounds. You could do more rolls. Consistent, right? So you can always rely on the number of rolls that you get in jiu-jitsu. Mm-hmm. Sometimes judo, it's like, all right, guys, 8 people go out there or 10 people go out there. Let's do some randori. You may not be able to get that space on the mat.
Yeah.
And maybe you're at a dojo where it's not a lot of students. Maybe that's the case. Maybe you have a lot more space. Who knows? Okay, but generally speaking. So now you have a certain amount, a lot of time and number of rolls, and now you can allocate your focus. Mm-hmm. For instance, instead of doing loose passing, fast passing, toreando passing, all that stuff, you want to be a specialist in over-under passing, that pressure passing style. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Person goes tomonage, whatever it is, get really quickly into that, splitting the leg position, and then go diving right into that over-under pass.
Yeah.
And then you want to be an expert, and then you want to make sure that you spend a lot of time there, understand all the different nuances of the reactions, the main line of defenses, the things he may do to prevent you from doing those passes. So now you're an expert in that. Right?
Yeah.
So that's a really, really good way to focus on that. You know what I mean? Obviously, starting from someone's back, getting there is difficult in jiu-jitsu rolls. But you could kind of talk to the person, hey, can we start, with you on my back, and then can we trade positions? That's something that's reasonable. That's a reasonable request. Hey, I'm working on finishing from the back. Or sometimes classes goes, hey, let's start in finishing juji position, hands locked or whatever it is. So that's kind of that's how you structure your own training. By communicating to your partner or communicating to the teacher, etc., etc. You know what I mean?
I see.
And you can always take 10 minutes after class and be like, hey, let's work these specific positions. That, I don't know any teacher that's like, no. You can just come 10 minutes early, 15 minutes early, given that there's no kids class happening beforehand or whatever. That's totally okay to just kind of specifically work. But, that's fine everywhere almost, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. And, and I think most teachers will find that very good because you're dedicated and motivated, and
for sure.
And just don't be a
Yeah. Don't be a dick about it.
Think about it. Yeah, exactly. So, all right. So now let's move on to the other case where you're a judoka, intermediate judoka, but you wanna learn BJJ as BJJ.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you can say it might be simpler because you just show up and just train, but you know, a lot of judo habits might kick in, and then your ego as a judoka might kick in, I guess.
Yeah, 100%.
So
you know, and I think the ego is the biggest killer for progress, I think. You know, and that's one thing I learned, to not have an ego. And even now, still to this day, you know, I put myself in bad positions. I give positions to like older people or people not as athletic, or even people way below my skill level, right? So I go work on positions. Like, for instance, like if a really good black belt passes my guard, for me to retain from there is very difficult, right? But like a not so good blue belt who's a little bit older, who's a little bit lighter than me, like I can let him get there, no problem. He feels good about himself. Obviously, I don't give it to him in an obvious way.
Right.
I do the right reactions, this and that. He goes for this and that, and then he passes really quickly. Great, I'll accept it, and I'll try to work myself out of it. You know? And in the process, if I get submitted, it's not a big deal. You know? And I never let them extend my own. I don't trust blue belts ever. Right? So like when they just go for it, I was like, all right, you got it, good, nice work, you know?
Okay.
And then like we'll continue in this way, you know? And I think that's very, very helpful, because now winning is not the goal for me. You know what I mean? If winning is the goal, I could take anybody down, land in side control, keep him there the whole time, and that's a win for me. I can win that way, in air quotes. But I don't learn anything. The other person doesn't learn anything. And it's just like the most useless way to spend your time on the mat.
You're not there to like represent judo and then dojo break the dojo.
No. That's not why I'm there. You know what I mean? So right now, I'll give you an example. This guy Marcus showed me his like spider guard system. You know, not like a spider guard traditionally, like one foot goes up there, but he'll plant the other foot off balance and try to go into the other leg entanglement to the opposite side. You know, guys leading with his right leg, usually you De La Hiva and entangle that lead leg, but using that spider guard to entangle the other leg, which makes it very difficult, because if you don't lead with your left and you don't knee cut with your left or don't do any of the stuff with your left, now all of a sudden you're forced to do that.
I see.
You know what I mean? So I've been trying to do this kind of stuff, and in the process, I learned that my legs are really short, right? So it's very difficult. It's not the same because this guy's really lanky that I'm learning from, right? And then I'm making lots of little mistakes that ultimately leads to them maybe throwing the leg by or something and getting passed.
Right.
You know, it's fine. And then even when I get passed, when they throw that leg by with the spider hook, like I'll do different reactions. You know what I mean? I know when a blue belt does that, I could grab the sleeve, you know, push it across, frame through, and then when he lets go, like I could re-guard. But I'm not going to do that every time, you know? I may let him throw the leg by, and I may give him my back and then roll into a knee bar or something. But I'm going to try to give different looks, different reactions to kind of, feel a little bit more.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I develop that sensitivity to be able to react, to like which option is the best, and make that, you know, on the game, on the fly sort of decision. You know what I mean? And then, so that's how I've been kind of approaching my training. And then, you know, after people kind of realize this, they're not looking at it like, oh, I got to watch that guy because he's going to smoke somebody, or I want to see Shintaro slam somebody. In the beginning, it was a little bit like, oh, man, I wonder if he's going to slam somebody. And then I'm just disappointing everyone because I'm not throwing anybody in the room. But now,
you're not there to throw people.
I'm not there to slam guys. And they could get hurt because they don't have experience taking falls. So now I'm at a point where it's like, oh, you know, he's just a guy in the room training, you know. There's no pressure. You know, I get passed and, you know, submitted all the time. That's part of the training for me. You know what I mean?
I see.
Yeah.
So then, that's now kind of, that's a good segue to your own experience as, you know, showing up. You're not an intermediate judoka by any means, but you did show up to a BJJ school. So how was that like? I know, you know, you've done all that, like leaving the ego out the door, and then, you know, you're there. You approach it as, you wanted to learn BJJ as BJJ. You weren't there to, right? So how's it
I've
been?
been learning, you know, from Brian Glick. I have a long history with Brian. But it was once a week, you know, we get together. And, you know, I have like a couple months stints here and there. Like I did 3 months at Henzo's, you know, with Donaher, and he gave me my purple belt and such. And, you know, I go sometimes like to this school for a couple weeks or something like that. But it's very sporadic, very little, like not real training. You know what I mean? But this is the first time that I strung together probably 8 or 9 months where I'm going all the time and like actually embedding myself in the country and trying to learn. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Nice. So do you feel like it's helping you with your judo, or vice versa, or both? Like what are some of the things that you gain? Like, do you recommend this
Yeah, I'll tell you
to
this.
people? Yeah.
The way I gained confidence in my newaza is
Yeah.
different. You know what I mean? Before, a jiu-jitsu BJJ black belt, like a Gen Pop black belt who's a little bit older, can visit my dojo and challenge me to newaza. And if my goal was to just not get submitted and beat him, I could do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But now, like, it's like I really know their game. I really know jiu-jitsu, so I'm a lot more proficient. And then also, there was a guy who reached out to me from Japan. He was a junior world champ, right?
Oh.
Recently, and he's like, "Hey, man, I'm gonna," he texted his buddy who speaks English, and he hit me up, and he's like, "Yo, this guy's coming, and he's my size, my weight. He's like late 20s.
Wow.
He's a killer, right?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh man, like this might be the day." When he comes, that I'm gonna get taken down in front of everyone in the dojo. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This guy, and
Sounds like it's no joke. Yeah.
but it's 3-minute randori round. I could hold my own with anybody.
Yeah.
Right? But I was like, you know what though? I'm gonna embarrass him on the ground first.
Oh,
I'm gonna submit him 4 times, and then he's gonna fear me. And then by the time we get to tachiwaza, he's gonna be his spirit's gonna be broken. You know what I mean? Maybe like put 6 minutes on the clock for the ground, and then just hammer him for 6 minutes straight, right?
Okay.
Just demoralize him and just make him feel the fear of God, right? And then when we get to stand up, he's gonna be a little bit like, oh shit, I better not miss. I better not go for a drop seinagi miss because he's a drop seinagi guy, because he's gonna strangle me, he's gonna punish me.
Yeah.
And even though we're not, we're training stand up, there's the risk of getting submitted if you're giving up your back if you miss. So that pressure may slow down or delay his drop seinagi game, So that gives me confidence for sure.
Did it work out? How did that go?
No, he didn't come last minute.
He didn't come
last minute. And I was very relieved, actually. Yeah.
That would have been interesting. I would have flown to New York to just see that.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've been...
name. But he was relatively current, and he was on the world circuit. He was very successful. So I was like, this guy, I'm going to have a hard time with this guy. Because he's also big. He's also heavier than me. He's taller than me. He's current. He's in his late 20s. So I'm like, all right, this guy is going to give me a hard time. Yeah.
So you've become more well-rounded. It gave you more confidence on the ground, obviously.
Yeah.
Did it? I guess but then you've been really learning a lot of very BJJ specific things too, though, like spider guards and De La Hiva and all that.
This is the thing, right? I think there's a lot of stuff in BJJ that's BJJ specific that guys have not brought over to judo yet.
Oh, you think those like spider guards and they can be used in judo? You think?
100%. I think. For instance, when you go tomonage, guy drops to his knees, right?
Yeah.
You close guard. Both usually parties know that they're not going to be able to open the closed guard, pass the closed guard, and get the pin position within the allotted amount of time.
Yeah.
So both players just accept that closed guard position.
This is done. Yeah.
And then it's essentially a stalemate.
Yeah.
Because it takes a lot of effort and time to get any meaningful attacks from there in judo, right?
Yeah.
So they accept it. They look at the ref goes, all right, guys, let's get back to your feet. I know both of you. In that position, though, right?
Yeah.
To transition double feet on the hip after you have the double sleeves, and then put the foot on the bicep for the right, and go for a flash sankaku is completely within reason.
Surprise,
to be able to do in an actual judo match, and you're there all the time, right? So like going like cross collar juji, like regular juji from bottom, that's just not gonna happen because you can't do that, in closed guard real quick, like right off the bat. Right, but like looking to off balance some closed guard and then having 2 or 3 really fast flash attacks, like that's something that most judokas don't do. And Flavio Canto was successful with that, right? He had the collar, he would off balance and then do the Canto choke.
Yeah.
Collar, off balance, juji, Canto choke. Like he would just alternate between these 3, and he had a tremendous amount of success.
Right.
But usually you go into a jiu-jitsu school and it's like, okay, we're going to learn the closed guard. We're going to grab the sleeve. We're going to try to bring the arm across the center line. And then we're going to try to trap that topside shoulder. And if you resist back here, we're going to try to sweep him. And then the person on top is going to try to open the closed guard by doing this and standing up and blah, blah, blah. And then if he stands up, you go for, K-guard or whatever, entry, leg entries.
Yeah.
None of that stuff is going to happen in judo, right?
Right. But
So,
I guess it's a little hard to practice that in BJJ schools, though. I guess you have to kind of ask people to be in that position that you're gonna try this. Like, how would you?
but by
Yeah.
being advanced and working,
Oh, like the
just
fundamentals.
being there,
Yeah.
right? And that's
Yeah.
the issue with stand-up judo for BJJ guys, right? And
Yeah.
I've realized this because I'm teaching a judo class at Essential, right?
Yeah.
And I'm doing private sometimes with some of these guys, and they're asking all the right questions. And then
Yeah.
the training in air quotes, right? Judo, they're doing this stuff.
Yeah.
But now all of a sudden, rolling comes around, and they're doing
Yeah.
6 rolls, 5 minutes each, five
Yeah.
rolls, 6 minutes each, whatever. There's 30 minutes. And the other person's like, oh shit, he's been working judo with Shintaro. Bang.
So he
Guard
sits.
pull.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? And then they're never really spending that much time on their feet.
Yeah. Yeah.
20 seconds in a row, if that.
Yeah.
So they don't get the repetitions and the time in that standing position where you have two parties trying to throw each other.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's the issue, really. And even in judo, too, in newaza, it's like you're never spending that much time in close guard, so you don't develop the feel and the intricacies. How to off balance, try to extend the limb. You know what I mean? How to, like, show a choke and make them believe, and then try to off balance them backwards and try to sweep them, and then they're coming into you and then going for juji. You know?
So it's an exposure problem. Like you just if
Absolutely,
you actually
yeah.
think about it, you just don't get exposed as much to
Yeah,
these
yeah.
situations.
You just don't. So, like, spending time in it can help with, like, developing that feel.
Feel and then
You know?
that comes and the speed will follow the feel and all that.
Yes, yes. So there's definitely a good thing there, you know? And then I think
I
the next
see.
level up is seeing things that you could bring over from judo and things that you can bring over from jiu-jitsu and things and theories and concepts that are apparent in both. Right? And then understanding that where no one really truly understands it. I'll give you an example, man. When you're doing right versus right, people ask, where do you grab the sleeve when they're grabbing your collar, right?
Yeah.
Low sleeve, mid sleeve, halfway between the elbow and the wrist, or like high in the bicep. Like, where do you grab it, you know? And then the two most common ones are middle of the elbow when you're pushing pressure down,
Yeah.
right? And then
Yeah.
low sleeve. And it's
Yeah.
like, when do you do those things? That's the question.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? What is the intent for low sleeve? What is the intent for high sleeve? What techniques are good for low sleeve? What techniques are good for high sleeve?
Yeah.
Okay. And then once you now think about that, right? You know everyone wants to grab this collar for a specific reason. So then you can
Yeah.
kind of reverse engineer it to prevent what they want to do and then implement your own intentions between the two sleeves.
Yeah.
Similarly with jiu-jitsu, if they're in headquarters and they grab the collar, they want to like close that elbow knee space, okay? But as they're doing that, okay, how are you grabbing that sleeve? And what is the intent? You know what I mean? If you go
Yeah.
low sleeve and then you could pop it off and you have sort of that cat's paw grip, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's more of a pulling thing, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to a pushing thing. You don't need to push
Yeah.
as much in that position. That's why that position's so, what is it, more apparent and common in BJJ
Yeah.
from those positions. What is it called? The hook grip or the pocket grip? You know what I'm talking about?
Pistol. Yeah. Yeah. I know.
Not
It's
pistol
like
grip. Yeah.
not pistol, but you like
Cat's paw. They call it
Yeah,
cat's paw
yeah.
in old judo, and then they call it like
Yeah.
a hook grip or something like this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
I know what you mean. Yeah.
yeah, that leads to more length, and then you could throw your leg over for like sort of a lasso.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And then when do you go for that high mid elbow sort of a section? You know, when you
Right,
reinforce it here, then you can pull it up and you go take a tame or something, you know?
Yeah.
And then, so like those are very, very similar, nuanced
Yeah.
things that are concepts that are in both grip fighting
Yeah.
judo and then BJJ, right? But in BJJ, no one really talks about grip fighting.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
knee cut, there's a hierarchy of advantages, right? Bottom leg, top leg, collar hand.
Yeah.
And then how do you get that collar hand? Hand on the collar is a big one because once you get the collar, now you're anchored to that person. Now they can't chest escape away, right?
Yeah.
All these different things. And people are good at grip fighting there who are very good, who've developed it, but they don't specifically, explicitly teach it like the way they do in high level judo. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So making that connection between the two sports and then being able to like understand it fully and seeing sort of
Yeah.
into the ether. Is that a thing? You know?
I've heard that expression, but I honestly don't know what that means. But
I don't know. I just kind of made it up. So I think that is like, where I'm trying to look.
Yeah.
And it's like that video micro judo that I was talking about, the nuanced stuff that no one really sees, but really makes a difference. You know what I mean? I think that's the next tier up. And understanding people use kuzushi all the time. You didn't do enough kuzushi, but they don't truly understand.
What does that even mean? Yeah.
Like how to provide that kuzushi. It's not as simple as pull this way and the guy off balances. There's a lot of push-pull, nuance, hand position, intention, like what is intended to be done here, and then what do they anticipate is being done here. You know what I mean? If they think I'm going to go for tomonage, right? That alone is going to drive their way back, which makes it easy for me to push them back for koichi or even double koichi in jiu-jitsu, right? Or the dummy sweep.
Yeah.
Right? Or your tripod sweep.
Oh, I'm going to run a seminar around that.
You should. Right?
All right. So this is, I think we had a great conversation about BJJ for intermediate judokas.
Yeah.
Whether we're going to follow it up with judo for intermediate BJJers. But anything else we missed?
I mean, that's it, man. And, you could just do jiu-jitsu so much more safely. And then there's a lot more availability with the jiu-jitsu classes because it's just safer. Much more people practice it in the United States, right? Specifically in the United States. I know everyone's been hating on me for the stuff that I say. And I forget to say in the United States. Because if you go to France, you have 1 million people doing judo. If you go to Japan, you have 1 million people doing judo. If you go to Korea, there's a lot of people doing judo. There's like a TV show in Korea where celebrities try judo. On TV. So, I mean, this is like specifically we're talking in the U.S. market, So I hope people, don't get too offended and upset. But yes.
We're U.S.-centric because we're in the U.S. American,
we speak English,
Yeah.
So, anyway. Thank you guys for listening, as always. And then find us on Instagram, Judo Shintaro NYC. Right?
Yeah.
And then
all the support us on Patreon to join us our Discord server. Yeah.
And thank you. And that's it, really.
Yeah. Great. All right. Thanks for listening, guys, and we'll see you guys in the next episode.